I'll be launching a new series today here on my YouTube channel tagged Land Disputes. And what this playlist and this series will be about is we'll be sharing real life scenarios, real life circumstances where people can challenge your ownership of a property, where you can lose your right to a property. And with these different samples, examples, and scenarios, you can understand how you can protect yourself and also avoid getting into some of these scenarios either now or in the future. Now, for anyone coming across a video like this for the first time, please meet the Property Guy Property channel, and this will discuss everything real estate. For first-time investors, avid investors, people who have been investing already, people who are just started to start buying properties, start investing in real estate, start investing in shortlets, start investing in land banking, this video, this channel is for you. We share tips, guides, and advices here, return on investment, locations, everything you really need to know about real estate. We share everything here. So this is your go-to channel. So if this is your very first video, after watching this particular video, I also suggest you go to our different playlists on land documents, on real estate companies, on shortlets, on different real estate locations, Bejuleki, most of the common locations, trending locations. We have them under our playlist, and you can watch the different videos and different topics that we have covered about these different locations. All right, so let's go into the topic. Let's go into the video. Our first part one, our first series on land disputes here in Nigeria. All right, so before we go into the video, if you have not subscribed yet to our videos, you have not subscribed yet to our channel, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our videos. We still have so many fantastic topics coming up for investors, about land documents, about real estate companies. Just so many topics, so many fantastic and interesting topics are still coming, and we don't want you to miss any of these videos. So you have to subscribe, turn on your notification button so that as we are dropping these videos, you are notified and you don't miss any of them. All right, so let's go into the first video, the first series in our land dispute, and I'll be beginning a diagram and a table onto our screen very soon, and I'll be explaining a real life scenario on how you can buy a property and you can have dispute on that property and you can lose that property. All right, so in this table we have Mr. P. Mr. P is the owner of the property. He has a parcel of land, and then he has 4 kids. So we have P1, P2, P3, P4. Those are the 4 kids. All right, so now P1, being the first child and the first son, sold this particular land, this particular parcel of land that belongs to their father. Their father is demised, so sold this particular land, sold it to an individual, which is individual A. Now, when they sold this property to individual A, they signed a deed of assignment. So the person that signed this deed of assignment is the first child himself, P1, and his wife. So they represented the assignees of that one that assigned that property to individual A. So then they had a deed and survey. Then individual A perfected that title and have a governor's consent on that land. All right, now when the other 3 siblings, P2, P3, P4, realize that their first child or their senior brother has sold that land to someone else, so the 3 siblings also sold the land to someone else. So they sold that land to individual B and also signed a deed of assignment with individual B. So individual B, the deed of assignment that individual B has was assigned by the 3 siblings P2, P3, and P4, while the deed of assignment that individual A has was signed by P1, which is the first child, and his wife. So now there's a dispute on this property, and both are tendering a deed of assignment, and both are also claiming rights to that particular land based on that they bought that property. This person said that, oh, I bought it from this person, Mr. So-so person and Mrs. So-so person, While this other person is saying that I bought this property also, I bought it from Mr. So-so, Mrs. So-so, and Mr. So-so, and they were telling me that they are the owners of this land. So when there is a dispute like this on this land, who is going to be the rightful owner of this property? Now, so let's start to analyze the property tree and the property ownership of this property, so that you can now try to know who has more right to the property and who has less right to the property. Now, forget about governor's consent in this instance. I've said this before in a previous video. When there's a dispute or when there's a land dispute in court, it's not really about the title that you have on the land this time around. It's now about how you acquired that property even before you did that title. So the governor's consent is just still one side. All right, so now the moment Mr. P died, the land belonged legally to the 4 children, P1, P2, P3, P4. Legally, the land is transferred to them via inheritance, as 4 of them being the heirs and successors of Mr. P. Now, since individual A bought this property from Mr. P1, who is still like a property, part of the property owners of that property, Mrs. P1 does not belong to that tree, because Mrs. P1 does not have any direct link to Mr. P1, Mr. P rather, to Mr. P. So Mrs. P1, being the wife of Mr. P1, does not have any right to that property, because that property does not belong to his husband, to her husband rather. So from that ownership transfer already to individual A, Mrs. P1 is a minus. Despite the fact that she signed the deed of assignment, is still a minus, because she does not have any right to sign that deed of assignment in the first place. That land does not belong to her husband only. So in the tree now, from the deed of assignment that individual A is submitting, is only P1 that will be recognized. Mrs. P1 will not be recognized. All right, now for individual B that is also claiming a right to that property, are telling us that P2, P3, and P4, which is the second child, the third child, and the fourth child, are the one that sold this property to him, and they signed a deed of assignment to him, and he presented the deed of assignment, and it's also shown in the deed that the second child, the third child, and the fourth child truly executed the deed and signed to also effect the transfer on that deed. So from this tree, is already being obvious that individual B has more rightful people that signed that deed than individual A, despite the fact that individual A has perfected that deed of assignment to a governor's consent. So individual A now only has Mr. P1 as the rightful owner, while individual B has Mr. P2, Mr. P3 or Mrs. P3, and Mr. P4 as the rightful owners of that property. So this person has more people as rightful owner of that property than individual A. So the governor's consent by individual A already has been revoked, because the succession and the transfer of ownership of that property on that deed of assignment that governor's consent was done on is already wrong. Mrs. P1 has no business in signing that deed of assignment in the first place. That's why I said in one of my videos, in governor's consent, the CFO, the land bureau, they just register the transaction. If the transaction itself is faulty, the registration that they do on it also will be revoked. All right, so now the judgment of the judge or the court might now varies. They may tell individual B that, okay, pay Mr. A, Mr. P1 some amount too, so that Mr. P1 can also consent to that transaction. But individual A is definitely losing that property. The only way individual A can still have access to that property is if individual B consents to transfer that property to him, and then he pays individual B and he can continue using that property. So you can see how very complex, very, how can I put it, non-transparent all these ownership trees can be. And these things are very, very important. So that's why all the deed of assignment that you are collecting from real estate companies, always read it. Don't just look at the last page. Always read it, so that you know how the company themselves acquired that property. They bought it directly from the family, they bought it from someone that bought from the family, so that you yourself, you can be tracing and trying to know where there is any weak links there before you go and register that document or register that transaction with a governor's consent or anything that you want to do on that title. So all this property tree, they are always indicated on the deed of assignment. If it's not indicated on the deed of assignment, return it or go and give it to a lawyer. Let the lawyer go through it and the lawyer communicates with the company and tell them what they want to put, what they should put there. But it's important that the property history is explained in the deed of assignment, from how the company bought that property before they transferred it to you, how the company bought that property from also had ownership of that property, and so on and so forth like that. So even on that first page, they can use like almost 4 or 5 paragraphs to just explain the property history or how that property has transferred ownership before it goes to the company and before the company can now transfer it to you. So this is just a simple tree just for you to understand how property ownerships, property transfer can be complex. If your father has a property and you guys are 6, don't say because you are the firstborn you can sell that property. You cannot sell it to you cannot sell it to. If you sell it, if your siblings go and sell it to another person, there will be a dispute, and the person you sell that property to will get you arrested because you sold a property that belongs to 6 people and only you collected money. So there is no male child, female child there. There is no first child, second child there. Legally, once a property is via inheritance, all of you have equal rights on that property. Male or female, or his first wife or second wife, or all of you have, except you guys have an outside or a mutual agreement on how you want to share it. Simple. But if there's no mutual agreement on how you want to share it, all of you owns that property basically. All right, so if you have any question about this, if you have anything that you do not understand about this simple land dispute that I just explained here, we'll be having more of this. We'll be having more of these different scenarios, different circumstances where you can buy a property, someone else can come and tell you that no, this property to me, so I bought it from so person. So, and then you guys have to go to court. Even before you decide yourself of calling a lawyer, you should already know if that property you are losing it or you are not losing it, so I don't even incur more loss. All right, so assuming number one property in planet, your property advisor, property consultant, Rabi Mustafa. Thanks once again for watching our videos, and see you next time.